Captain Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the Stellar Dawn and watched the stars through the main screen. His dark eyes focused on the empty space ahead where their sensors had detected something strange, something that should not exist according to every map the Galactic Council had ever made. The year was 2387, and space exploration had become routine for most species in the galaxy. But today felt different. Today felt like the kind of day that would change everything, though Hyun-woo did not know it yet. "Captain, we are approaching the coordinates," said Lieutenant Bin Ho from his station at the navigation controls, his voice carrying the same excitement that had filled the crew ever since they received orders to investigate what the Council's deep space monitors had detected in this supposedly empty region of space. "Dr. Bo-Ra, what do your sensors tell you?" Hyun-woo asked the xenobiologist who had joined their mission specifically for this investigation. Her expertise in studying unknown life forms making her invaluable for first contact situations, Bo-Ra looked up from her instruments with wide eyes that reflected both wonder and confusion, her hands still moving across the control panels as she tried to make sense of what she was seeing. "Captain, there is definitely a solar system here. 7 planets orbiting a star very similar to Earth's sun. But this is impossible because every survey of this region over the past 300 years has shown nothing but empty space." The bridge fell silent except for the soft humming of the ship's engines. Each crew member trying to understand how an entire solar system could appear where none had existed before, or at least where none had been detected before. "Could it be some kind of cloaking technology?" asked Communications Officer Ye-jin, her voice barely above a whisper as if speaking too loudly might make the mysterious system disappear. "If it is cloaking technology, it is far beyond anything in our databases," Bo-Ra replied, her excitement growing as she studied the readings more carefully. The 3 inner planets show signs of terraforming, massive industrial activity, and what appears to be artificial structures on a scale I have never seen before. Hyun-woo felt his heart rate increase as the implications began to sink in. An unknown civilization with technology advanced enough to hide an entire solar system was either the greatest discovery in galactic history or the greatest threat the Council had ever faced. "Take us closer but maintain defensive readiness," he ordered, knowing that first contact protocols required extreme caution when dealing with unknown species, especially ones that displayed such advanced capabilities. As the Stellar Dawn moved deeper into the system, the crew watched in amazement. As more details became visible through their enhanced sensors, the planets were not just terraformed but transformed into something that looked like paradise worlds with perfect atmospheric conditions and surface temperatures. "Captain, I am detecting massive energy signatures from the industrial facilities," reported Chief Engineer Min Soo, his voice filled with professional admiration for whatever technology could generate such power levels. "These readings are off our measurement scales." Suddenly, the ship's alarm system activated and red lights began flashing throughout the bridge as Tactical Officer Woo Young announced what everyone feared might happen. "Captain, we have multiple contacts approaching fast, unknown ship designs, no match. In our database, they are surrounding us." Through the main screen, they watched as sleek vessels appeared seemingly from nowhere, their hulls reflecting the light of the system's star in ways that made them look almost liquid, almost alive, and each ship was easily twice the size of the Stellar Dawn. "Are they targeting us?" Hyun-woo asked, his training taking over as he prepared for the possibility that this first contact might turn hostile very quickly. "Negative, sir. They are maintaining distance, but they have us completely surrounded. I count 36 vessels in a perfect sphere formation around our position." Then, something happened that shocked everyone on the bridge. The communication system activated without anyone touching the controls, and a clear human voice spoke in perfect Council standard language. "Stellar Dawn, this is Admiral Tae-min of the new Terra Defense Fleet. You have entered sovereign human territory. State your purpose and intentions." The silence that followed this transmission was so complete that Hyun-woo could hear his own heartbeat. human territory. Humans with a fleet of advanced ships. Humans who could hide an entire solar system. None of this made any sense according to everything the Council knew about human capabilities. This is Captain Hyunwoo of the Galactic Council Survey Service. We detected this system on our long-range sensors and came to investigate. We had no knowledge that this was human territory. Captain Hyunwoo, you and your crew are welcome here. We have been expecting visitors from the Council for some time. Please follow our escort ships to New Terra Prime, where we can discuss this situation properly. As the unknown human ships began moving in perfect formation around the stellar dawn, Bo-Ra whispered what everyone was thinking. How is this possible? Humans are supposed to be a minor species with limited technology and small colonies on the outer rim. Hyunwoo had no answer for her question, but as they approached the largest planet in the system, what they saw through the main screen made him realize that everything the Council thought they knew about humans was completely wrong. Cities stretched across entire continents with towers that reached into the upper atmosphere, massive orbital stations connected to the planet's surface by what appeared to be solid beams of light, and ships moved between the planet and its 3 moons, in streams so dense they looked like rivers of metal flowing through space. My sensors are detecting population levels in the billions, Bo-Ra reported, her voice filled with awe. This is not a small human colony. This is a major civilization. As they landed at a spaceport that could have held 1,000 ships the size of the stellar dawn, Hyunwoo watched through the viewports as humans in advanced environmental suits worked alongside robotic systems that moved with impossible precision, and Speed Admiral Tae-min met them at the airlock, a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes that seemed much older than his face suggested, wearing a uniform made from materials that seemed to shift and change color as he moved. Welcome to New Terra Prime, Captain Hyunwoo and Dr. Bo-Ra. I apologize for the dramatic introduction, but we had to ensure that you understood the seriousness of this meeting. As they walked through corridors lined with technology that Hyunwoo could not begin to understand, the Admiral began to explain what should have been impossible. 200 years ago, a secret expedition left Earth with prototype technology and some of the greatest minds humanity had ever produced. They were sent to establish a hidden colony that could develop human potential. Without the limitations placed on us by the Council's regulations, Bo-Ra stopped walking and stared at the Admiral with wide eyes. You mean this colony has existed for 2 centuries without anyone knowing? We have been watching the galaxy very carefully, Dr. Bo-Ra, learning about every species, every technology, every political development, while we focused on advancing far beyond what anyone thought possible. They entered a vast chamber with windows that showed the planet's surface, stretching to the horizon, cities and forests and oceans that looked like something from a dream, and Admiral Tae-min gestured toward the view with obvious pride. We have been waiting for the right moment to reveal ourselves to the galaxy, Captain Hyunwoo, and that moment has finally arrived. The Council needs to know that humanity is no longer the weak species they remember. Hyunwoo looked out at the impossible civilization spread before him and realized that this discovery would change everything, not just for humans but for every species in the galaxy. The balance of power that had existed for centuries was about to shift in ways that no one could have predicted. "What do you want from the Council?" he asked, though he suspected that the question was wrong. That perhaps the real question was what the Council could offer to these advanced humans. Admiral Tae-min smiled, and his eyes held a mixture of sadness and determination that made Hyunwoo understand that this conversation was about much more than first contact. We want recognition. Captain, recognition that humanity deserves its place among the galaxy's great civilizations, and we are prepared to demonstrate exactly why that recognition is not just deserved, but necessary for everyone's future. 3 days after Captain Hyunwoo's arrival at New Terra Prime, the galaxy received a shock that would be remembered for centuries. Every communication device on every inhabited world suddenly activated at exactly the same moment. displaying the image of Admiral Taemin standing in what appeared to be the most advanced command center anyone had ever seen. Citizens of the galaxy, I am Admiral Taemin, speaking on behalf of the sovereign human territories in the Kepler 442 system. For 200 years, humanity has watched and learned while developing capabilities that will reshape our understanding of what is possible. On the Galactic Council homeworld, emergency sessions were called as government officials tried to understand how anyone could broadcast simultaneously to every world in Council space. The technology required for such a feat was beyond anything in their databases. Director Wu Jin stood beside Admiral Taemin in the command center, watching display screens that showed the reactions across hundreds of worlds as billions of beings tried to process what they were hearing. We formally claim the Kepler 442 system as sovereign human territory under the ancient laws of discovery and development, and we invite the Galactic Council to recognize our legitimate right to exist as equals among the galaxy's civilizations. The transmission ended as suddenly as it had begun, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence before the storm of outrage and disbelief began. Council representatives demanded immediate military action against what they called human arrogance and illegal territorial claims. Engineer Da-eun worked calmly in her laboratory while the galaxy erupted in fury, her hands moving across control surfaces that manipulated forces most species believed were theoretical, gravity fields that could be shaped like clay, energy barriers that existed in dimensions beyond normal space. They will send ships, she said to her assistant, a young woman named Hai Wan, who had grown up knowing that this day would eventually come. Admiral Taemin wants a demonstration that will make them understand without causing unnecessary deaths. Captain Hyun-woo watched from the observation deck of the human command facility as a Galactic Council enforcement fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. 12 heavy cruisers and their escort vessels, enough firepower to destroy most planetary defenses. They demand immediate surrender and withdrawal from the system, reported Communications Officer Sora, her voice steady despite the tension that filled the command center. Admiral Taemin nodded to Engineer Da-eun, who activated controls that seemed to respond to her thoughts rather than her touch, and the enforcement fleet suddenly found their weapons and engines completely disabled by energy pulses that appeared to come from nowhere. Captain Ki-ho led the response teams that gently pushed the disabled Council ships out of the system using focused gravity fields. Each vessel carefully guided to safe distance before their systems were restored, and they were released with a simple message: return to the Council and inform them that humanity seeks peaceful relations but will defend its territory with means that make conventional warfare obsolete. Dr. Bora had spent the last 3 days touring New Terra Prime with growing amazement, seeing technology that seemed to violate fundamental laws of physics, watching humans work alongside machines that appeared to think and feel, witnessing manufacturing processes that created materials atom by atom. How did you advance so far beyond the rest of the galaxy? She asked Engineer Da-eun as they stood in a laboratory where scientists manipulated the building blocks of matter itself. 200 years of focused development without the constraints that limit other species, Da-eun replied, her hands creating complex molecular structures in mid-air, using tools that existed only as projections of pure energy. While the Council maintained political stability through technological stagnation, we pushed the boundaries of what science could achieve. The demonstration for the enforcement fleet was only the beginning. Director Wu Jin revealed that human observers had been monitoring Council communications for decades. Invisible ships that could travel through dimensions that other species did not know existed. We have detailed intelligence on every major military installation, every political negotiation, every technological development across Council space, he explained to Captain Hyun-woo, who was beginning to understand the scope of human preparation. You have been spying on us for decades, Hyun-woo said, though His tone carried more admiration than accusation. "We have been learning, Captain, preparing for the day when humanity would take its rightful place in galactic affairs, and ensuring that we would be ready for whatever resistance we might face." Back on the Council homeworld, military leaders studied the reports from the enforcement fleet with growing alarm. Ships disabled without visible weapons, technology that could affect matter at the quantum level, capabilities that suggested humans had achieved breakthroughs that other species had considered impossible. Ambassador Yu Jin prepared for her departure to the council chambers, carrying proposals that would reshape galactic civilization if accepted, or leave the council facing a future they were not equipped to handle if rejected. "They will not want to admit that humans have surpassed them," Admiral Taemin warned as Yu Jin reviewed her presentation materials. "Pride and fear will make them choose conflict over cooperation. Then we will show them that conflict is no longer an option," Yu Jin replied, her voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone who understood exactly how much power backed her words. The journey to the council homeworld took Ambassador Yu Jin through space lanes that had been controlled by other species for centuries, her ship moving at speeds that should have been impossible while remaining completely invisible to every sensor system that tried to detect it. Captain Ki-ho escorted her personally, his ship equipped with defensive systems that could protect against any weapon in the Council's arsenal while demonstrating capabilities that would redefine military technology. "Remember, we are not here to threaten." Admiral Taemin's voice came through the communication system as they approached their destination. "We are here to offer partnership to those wise enough to accept it and irrelevance to those who choose otherwise." On New Terra Prime, scientist Min Ho worked on preparations for a demonstration that would prove human capabilities beyond any doubt, his team manipulating gravitational fields on a scale that would move celestial bodies themselves. "Are you certain this will not cause permanent damage to their system?" asked his colleague, Dr. Yun-Su, as she monitored the calculations that would relocate one of their own moons. "The moon will be returned exactly to its original position after 1 hour," Minho assured her, "but the message will be clear that if we can move moons, we can protect ourselves against any conventional attack." Captain Hyunwoo sent his report to the council while struggling to find words that could convey what he had witnessed, a human civilization that had achieved technological advancement beyond anything in galactic history, cities that seemed to grow themselves, ships that traveled through folded space, people who lived in harmony with machines that possessed genuine intelligence. "They are not the humans we remember," he concluded his report. "They have become something new, something that will force every species in the galaxy to reconsider their place in the universe." Dr. Bora added her own observations about human society, noting that their technological advancement had not come at the cost of their humanity, that they had maintained their curiosity, their compassion, their desire to explore and learn. "They offer us partnership as equals," she wrote, "but they no longer need our approval or permission to exist as a major galactic power." As Ambassador Yu Jin's ship approached the Council homeworld, Director Wu Jin monitored communications across the galaxy, watching as news of the human revelation spread and various species began choosing sides between cooperation and resistance. "Some are already requesting direct communication with us," he reported to Admiral Taemin. "The smaller species understand that aligning with us offers opportunities they never had under Council dominance. And the major powers," Admiral Taemin asked, though he already knew the answer, "they are mobilizing for war, believing that military force can solve what they see as the human problem." Admiral Taemin looked out at the thriving civilization he had helped build and felt both pride and sadness, pride in what humanity had achieved, and sadness that other species might choose destruction over cooperation. "Then we will show them that the age of solving problems through violence has ended, and the age of solving them through superior capability has begun." Ambassador Yu Jin walked through the corridors of the Galactic Council chambers with the quiet confidence of someone who carried the future in her briefcase, her footsteps echoing in halls that had seen centuries of political maneuvering, but nothing quite like what was about to unfold. The council had been in emergency session for 6 days since the human broadcast. Representatives from 12 major species and dozens of minor ones debating how to respond to what they called the human crisis, though Yujin knew they would soon understand that the crisis belonged to them, not to humanity. General Hye-jin stood on the command deck of New Terra Prime's primary defense station, watching displays that showed the largest military buildup in galactic history. Over 10,000 warships from across Council space converging on routes that would bring them to the Kepler 442 system within weeks. They believe that overwhelming force will solve their problem, she said to her aide, Colonel Seok-jin, who was reviewing defensive preparations that bore no resemblance to conventional military strategy. Should we be concerned about their numbers? Seok-jin asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Numbers become irrelevant when the fundamental nature of warfare changes, Hye-jin replied, her attention focused on the crystalline structures being positioned throughout the system by construction teams that worked with technology beyond Council understanding. Scientist Min Ho had spent the morning calibrating instruments that would allow him to demonstrate human capabilities in a way that even the most stubborn Council members could not ignore. His team preparing to relocate one of New Terra Prime's smaller moons to a position that would deliver an unmistakable message. The calculations are complete, reported his assistant, Dr. Jae Young, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. We can place the moon in orbit around the Council homeworld for exactly 1 hour before returning it to its original position, and you are certain there will be no gravitational disruption to their planet. Minho asked, because despite everything, humanity still valued life and had no desire to harm innocent beings. The moon will maintain a stable orbit that will not affect their tides or atmospheric conditions, Jae Young assured him. It will simply appear in their sky as a reminder of what we can accomplish. Ambassador Yu Jin entered the council chambers as the session was called to order, her presence causing a stir among representatives who had spent days debating how to deal with the human situation without consulting any actual humans. The chair recognizes Ambassador Yu Jin of the Human Territories, announced the council speaker, a member of the Altarian species whose blue skin seemed pale with stress. Honored representatives, I bring greetings from the sovereign human territories and proposals for a new relationship between humanity and the galactic community, Yu Jin began, her voice carrying easily through the vast chamber. Representative Kav-ek of the Vorthak Empire rose from his seat with obvious anger, his scaled features twisted in what his species considered an expression of contempt. The Council does not recognize any human territorial claims, and we demand immediate withdrawal from the illegally occupied system. Yu Jin smiled with the patience of someone who had expected exactly this response, opening her briefcase and activating a holographic display that showed detailed proposals for trade agreements, technology sharing, and mutual defense pacts. Humanity offers partnership based on equality and mutual benefit, she continued, ignoring the interruption. We are prepared to share technologies that will revolutionize energy production, space travel, and planetary development for all species willing to embrace peaceful cooperation. Impossible, declared Representative Thex Al of the Crystalline Consortium. Human technology is centuries behind Council standards. You cannot offer what you do not possess. At that moment, Minho activated his demonstration from the human territories, and every being in the council chambers felt a strange sensation, as gravity itself seemed to shift slightly. Then, through the chamber's transparent dome, they watched as a moon appeared in their sky, where none had existed moments before. The silence that followed lasted nearly a full minute as representatives tried to process what they had witnessed. a celestial body teleported across interstellar distances and placed in perfect orbit around their homeworld. "If humanity can move moons," Eugene said quietly, "perhaps you should reconsider your assumptions about human capabilities." Representative Kavek recovered first, his voice filled with rage rather than fear. "This changes nothing. The Council will not be intimidated by parlor tricks. We demand surrender or face the consequences." "Then you choose the path of conflict," Eugene replied, her tone carrying genuine sadness. "Humanity had hoped for wisdom, but is prepared for whatever response you select." As she spoke, the moon vanished from their sky as suddenly as it had appeared, returned to its original position around New Terra Prime by technology that made interstellar teleportation appear effortless. Back in the human system, General Haye Jin continued her preparations with the methodical precision of someone who had spent decades planning for this exact scenario. The crystalline structures now positioned throughout the system in patterns that would transform the entire region into a defensive network unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The approaching fleets still believe they are dealing with conventional military technology, she explained to her senior staff as they reviewed final preparations. They will discover that conventional warfare has become obsolete. Technician Dong Hyun monitored the construction progress from his station in the primary control center, his instruments showing energy readings that would have been impossible to achieve using any known technology. "All defensive nodes are operational," he reported. "We can create a pocket dimension large enough to contain their entire fleet while maintaining complete control over physical laws within that space." Captain Yoonji prepared her reconnaissance forces for what she knew would be the strangest military engagement in galactic history. Her ships equipped with technology that would allow them to observe and communicate with enemy forces while remaining completely undetectable. "Remember, our goal is to demonstrate overwhelming superiority while minimizing casualties," she reminded her pilots. "We want their surrender, not their destruction." On the Council homeworld, military commanders tried to analyze the moon teleportation incident while planning their assault on the human system, but their best scientists could not explain how matter had been transported across interstellar distances without leaving any detectable energy signature. Admiral Sang-woo, chosen to lead the assault fleet, studied intelligence reports that told him nothing useful about human defensive capabilities. Every attempt to scan the human system had been blocked by interference that his experts could not identify or overcome. "We proceed with the assumption that they possess advanced defensive technology," he decided, "but no civilization can stand against 10,000 warships, regardless of their technological advantages." His aide, Commander Nalex, harbored private doubts about the mission. The demonstration with the moon suggested capabilities that went far beyond conventional technology, but military pride prevented anyone from expressing concerns about attacking what they still thought of as inferior humans. Ambassador Yu Jin departed the Council homeworld knowing that her proposals would be rejected, but her mission had been successful in ways that the Council members did not yet understand. Every word of their session had been recorded by human observers using technology that could monitor any location in Council Space Director Woo Jin analyzed the Council's response from his command center on New Terra Prime, his intelligence networks providing real-time information about military preparations across the galaxy. "They are mobilizing every available ship," he reported to Admiral Taemin. "The largest assault fleet in recorded history. They intend to demonstrate Council power through overwhelming force." "Then we will demonstrate human power through overwhelming technology," Admiral Taemin replied, his voice carrying the weight of decisions that would reshape galactic civilization. "Are you certain we should reveal this much of our capabilities?" asked Colonel So Young, his second-in-command. "Once they understand what we can do, there will be no returning to the old relationships. The old relationships were built on the assumption that humans were weak, Admiral Taemin answered, "It is time for the galaxy to understand that assumption was wrong." As the Council fleet prepared for departure from staging areas across their territory, Captain Hyun Woo remained on New Terra Prime as an observer, documenting everything he witnessed for what he knew would be the most important report in Council history. "They still do not understand what they are facing," he said to Dr. Bo-Ra, as they watched human civilians going about their daily lives with no apparent concern about the approaching invasion force. "Should we be worried?" she asked, because despite everything she had seen, the idea of 10,000 warships was difficult to dismiss, I think. Yun-Woo replied carefully. "That we should be worried about what happens to the galaxy after this demonstration ends." Admiral Sang-Woo stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought Galactic Unity, as his fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, 10,347 warships arranged in perfect battle formation, the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. "Begin full-spectrum scans of the system," he ordered, expecting to see desperate human defensive preparations. Orbital weapons platforms, minefields, the usual signs of a civilization preparing for siege. Instead, his sensors detected something impossible. The entire system had been transformed into a geometric pattern of crystalline structures that formed connections between planets, moons, and empty space, creating a network that his instruments could not analyze or understand. "Sir, the energy readings from those structures are beyond our measurement capabilities," reported his science officer, Commander Zethra, her voice filled with professional concern. "Whatever those things are, they are operating on principles that do not match any known technology." Technician Dong-Hyun sat calmly at his control station on New Terra Prime, watching displays that showed the massive Council fleet arranging itself for attack, his hands resting on instruments that could manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. "All defensive nodes are synchronized," he announced to General Hia-Jin. "We can activate the containment field at any time." "Wait until they commit to their attack," she replied, understanding that the demonstration would be more effective if the Council forces believed they had the initiative. "Let them show their intentions before we show them our capabilities." Admiral Sang-Woo studied the tactical displays with growing confusion. The human system showed no signs of conventional defenses, no orbital weapons, no patrol ships, no energy barriers around the inhabited planets. "Where are their defensive forces?" he asked his tactical officer, Major Ren Ko, who had been scanning for military targets without success. "Sir, we detect civilian traffic between the planets, but no military vessels, no defensive installations that we can identify. It appears they are completely undefended." Captain Yoon-ji watched the Council fleet from her position aboard the reconnaissance vessel Silent Observer, her ship using technology that existed in a slightly different dimensional phase, making it completely invisible to conventional sensors while allowing perfect observation of enemy movements. "They still believe they are dealing with normal military opposition," she reported to her command team. "Admiral Sang-Woo is positioning his forces for a standard planetary assault." Her communications officer, Lieutenant Hwan-Soo, monitored Council fleet transmissions with equipment that could intercept and decode any signal, regardless of encryption methods. "They are planning simultaneous attacks on all 3 inhabited planets," he reported. "Maximum firepower deployment intended to force immediate surrender. Then it is time to show them that surrender is not something they can force from us," Captain Yoon-ji replied, activating communication channels that would allow her to speak directly. With the enemy fleet, Admiral Sang-Woo received the incoming transmission with surprise. His sensors showed no source for the signal, as if the voice was coming from empty space itself. "Council fleet. This is Captain Yoon-ji of the New Terra Defense Forces. You have entered sovereign human territory with obvious hostile intent. Withdraw immediately or face consequences beyond your understanding. Unknown vessel. Identify your position and surrender immediately." Sang-Woo responded, his bridge crew scanning frantically for the source of the transmission. "We are everywhere and nowhere. Admiral Sang-Woo, your technology cannot detect us because we exist in dimensions your instruments cannot perceive." The Admiral felt a chill run through his scaled body as he realized that humans were somehow monitoring his fleet without being detected, but military pride forced him to continue with his mission. "This is your final warning. Surrender or face the full might of the Galactic Council." "Then you have chosen to learn the hard way," Captain Yoonji replied with genuine sadness in her voice. Technician Dong Hyun activated the crystalline network with a simple gesture, and reality itself seemed to shift around the Council fleet as space-time folded and twisted, creating a pocket dimension that contained all 10,000 ships while isolating them from the normal universe. Admiral Sang-Woo watched in horror as his view screen showed stars disappearing one by one until only empty blackness surrounded his fleet. Then artificial lighting appeared from unknown sources, illuminating a space that seemed to have no boundaries or reference points. "Navigation reports complete instrument failure," announced his helmsman, Pilot Rexco. "We cannot determine our position, speed, or direction." "Weapon systems are non-responsive," added Tactical Officer Renko. "Our targeting computers cannot lock onto anything because our sensors detect no targets. Communications with the rest of the fleet are impossible," reported his signals officer. "We appear to be completely isolated." Then, Captain Yoonji's voice returned, now coming from every speaker on every ship in the trapped fleet simultaneously, her words carrying the authority of someone who held absolute power over their situation. "Council forces, you are now contained within a pocket dimension under complete human control. Your weapons cannot function, your engines cannot move you, and your communications are blocked. What do you want?" Admiral Sang-Woo demanded, though his voice carried less authority than before. "We want you to understand that the age of settling disputes through military force has ended," Captain Yoonji replied. "Humanity offers you a choice: surrender and be safely escorted from our territory, or remain here indefinitely while your governments learn to negotiate." To demonstrate human mercy and the futility of resistance, Captain Yoonji released one ship from the pocket dimension every hour, allowing the freed vessel to witness the helplessness of their trapped comrades before departing to report the situation to their governments. Commander Nalex found himself aboard the third ship released, his vessel restored to normal space with all systems functional, but his mind struggling to process what had happened to the rest of the fleet. "How do we report this?" he asked his communications officer as they prepared to return to Council space. "How do we explain technology that can trap 10,000 ships in a dimension that should not exist?" Back in the pocket dimension, Admiral Sang-Woo tried to maintain discipline among his trapped forces while his scientists worked desperately to understand their situation, but every instrument reading showed impossible results. "Gravity appears to be artificial and adjustable," reported Chief Science Officer Yothma. "The humans are manipulating fundamental forces as if they were simple tools." "Energy readings suggest we are not in normal space-time," added her assistant, "but we are somehow still receiving life support and artificial atmosphere from an unknown source." Captain Yoonji allowed the trapped fleet to witness demonstrations of human capability, ships that could phase in and out of their dimension at will, energy constructs that formed complex structures from pure thought, technology that operated without any visible power source. "Your finest scientists cannot explain what they are seeing," she announced to the fleet, "because you are witnessing the application of scientific principles that your civilizations have not yet discovered." Admiral Tae-min broadcast another message to the galaxy from New Terra Prime, his words reaching every inhabited world despite the fact that conventional communications could not penetrate the pocket dimension containing the Council fleet. The Galactic Council sent 10,000 ships to destroy the human territories. He announced, "Those ships now exist in a space where violence is impossible and weapons cannot function. Their crews are safe but powerless. We demonstrate this capability not to threaten, but to prove that the era of military solutions has ended. Technology has advanced beyond the point where conventional warfare can achieve meaningful results. On the Council homeworld, emergency sessions tried to process reports from the released ships while dealing with the political implications of having their entire assault fleet neutralized without a single human casualty. Representative Kavek raged about human treachery, while secretly fearing that his own species' military might meant nothing against opponents who could manipulate reality. Itself, they are holding our forces hostage. He declared, "This is an act of war that demands immediate retaliation." "With what forces?" asked Representative Thexall, his crystalline features reflecting his growing understanding of their situation. "If they can neutralize 10,000 ships, what hope do we have with conventional military responses?" Dr. Bora watched the demonstrations from New Terra Prime with scientific fascination, documenting technology that redefined her understanding of physics, biology, and the fundamental nature of reality. "They are not just more advanced," she explained to Captain Hyun-woo. "They have achieved breakthroughs that put them in a completely different category of technological development." "What do you think will happen to the fleet?" Hyun-woo asked, though he suspected the answer would depend entirely on human mercy, rather than Council military capability, I think, Bora replied carefully. "That the humans are waiting for the Council to realize that negotiation is their only remaining option." As days passed in the pocket dimension, President Na-Yun stood before the assembled representatives of the Galactic Council, her presence commanding respect in a way that would have been impossible just months earlier when humans were considered a minor species. But the neutralization of the largest fleet in galactic history had changed everything. The emergency session had been called after 3 weeks of political chaos, governments across Council space demanding action while secretly knowing that conventional military responses were now meaningless against human technological superiority. Honored representatives, humanity did not seek this confrontation, but we will not retreat from the responsibility it has placed upon us. Na-Yun began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who spoke for a civilization that had redefined the possible. Admiral Sang-woo and his fleet remained in the pocket dimension, their situation serving as a constant reminder to Council leadership that the balance of galactic power had shifted permanently, though the crews were treated well and allowed regular communication with their families. The human territories offer the Council a choice between partnership and irrelevance, Na-Yun continued, activating holographic displays that showed technologies beyond Council understanding. We can share knowledge that will benefit all species, or we can leave you behind as we explore possibilities you cannot imagine. Representative Kavek of the Vorthak Empire rose with obvious reluctance, his scaled features showing the strain of accepting what his species considered ultimate humiliation. "What terms do the humans propose?" he asked, though his tone suggested he already knew that humans would dictate rather than negotiate. Diplomat Su Jin stepped forward with documents that would reshape galactic civilization, her years of preparation evident in proposals that addressed every major challenge facing Council species. The Kepler Accords established new principles for galactic governance based on cooperation rather than dominance, she announced. Species that embrace democratic institutions, environmental protection, and peaceful expansion will receive access to technologies that will transform their civilizations. The first technology demonstration came from Chief Engineer Jun Ho, who activated devices that generated unlimited clean energy by tapping into fundamental forces that Council scientists had considered purely theoretical. Energy scarcity becomes meaningless when you can draw power directly from quantum fluctuations, he explained as displays showed power generation systems that could supply entire civilizations without environmental impact. "Impossible," declared Representative Morva of the Tecton Assembly. Conservation of energy is a fundamental law. Conservation applies within closed systems, Engineer Daun replied patiently. But reality contains dimensions and energy sources that your physics have not yet discovered. The second demonstration involved communication technology that allowed instantaneous contact across any distance. Chief Communications Officer Ye Rin, establishing real-time conversations with beings in distant galaxies. Space and time become irrelevant when information can travel through folded dimensions. She explained as council representatives watched in amazement. The entire universe becomes your neighborhood. President Nayun observed the reactions with satisfaction, understanding that each demonstration made the choice between cooperation and isolation more obvious. Species that join the Accords will participate in exploration beyond this galaxy, she announced. Those that prefer isolation will be left to pursue their traditional methods within their current territories. The third demonstration proved most shocking of all, Chief Engineer Jun Ho revealing ships that could travel between galaxies in weeks rather than the millions of years required by conventional technology. The universe contains countless civilizations waiting to be discovered, he explained as holographic displays showed star maps of distant galaxies. Humanity intends to make contact with as many as possible. Representative Thexal of the Crystalline Consortium was the first to understand the implications, his crystalline features shifting color with excitement. You are offering us membership in a galactic civilization that spans multiple galaxies, he said, his voice filled with wonder. We are offering partnership to those wise enough to evolve beyond primitive territorial competition. President Nayun confirmed, the universe is vast enough for all species to thrive if they choose cooperation over conflict. The voting began immediately, smaller species recognizing the opportunity to escape centuries of subordination to major powers, while larger empires struggled with accepting equal status. In the New Order, Director Wu Jin monitored the proceedings from New Terra Prime, his intelligence networks providing real-time analysis of political developments across Council space. 67 species have already signed preliminary agreements, he reported to Admiral Tae Min. The major powers are still debating, but their client states are choosing independence through human partnership. And the holdouts? Admiral Tae Min asked. Though he knew that some species would choose isolation rather than admit human superiority. 15 empires are refusing all contact. They prefer to maintain their current territories rather than acknowledge the new reality. Then they will discover that isolation is exactly what they achieve, Admiral Tae Min replied. We have no interest in forcing cooperation on those who prefer to remain behind. Captain Hyunwoo found himself appointed as chief liaison between his species and the human territories, his first-hand experience making him invaluable for helping others understand what partnership with humans actually meant. They are not interested in conquering us, he explained to concerned representatives from his homeworld. They genuinely want to share what they have learned, but only with species that demonstrate wisdom and peaceful intentions. Dr. Bo-Ra had accepted an invitation to join human research expeditions. Her expertise in xenobiology, making her perfect for first-contact missions to distant galaxies. They are planning to visit the Andromeda Galaxy within the next year, she reported to the xenobiology community, and they want representatives from every cooperative species to participate in exploration. The transformation of galactic civilization proceeded rapidly as species discovered that human technology could solve problems that had existed for centuries. Planets that had been considered uninhabitable became garden worlds within months using human terraforming techniques. Engineer Dae Yun led training programs that taught cooperative species how to operate technologies that seemed like magic, though she insisted that everything was based on scientific principles that could be learned and understood. What you call impossible is simply unfamiliar, she explained to students from dozens of species. Your ancestors would have considered faster-than-light travel impossible, but you learned to accept it as normal. The first intergalactic expedition launched 6 months after the signing of the Kepler Accords, a fleet of ships carrying representatives from 83 species on a journey that would establish contact with civilizations in distant galaxies. Chief Engineer Jun Ho served as technical commander for the expedition, his ships equipped with technology that could adapt to unknown physical laws and communicate with forms of life that defied conventional understanding. We go not as conquerors, but as explorers, President Na-Yun announced at the launch ceremony, to learn from civilizations that may be even more advanced than ourselves. Captain Hyun-woo stood on the observation deck of the expedition flagship as it prepared to depart, reflecting on how discovery of a hidden human colony had led to humanity reshaping not just galactic but universal civilization. "Do you think we made the right choice?" asked Dr. Bo-Ra, who would spend the next several years studying life forms in distant galaxies. "Think," Hyun-woo replied, watching stars that had never been visited by any galactic species, "that we made the only choice that offered a future worth having." Back in the Kepler 442 system, Admiral Sang-woo and his fleet were finally released from the pocket dimension. Their ships returned to normal space with full functionality, but their understanding of reality permanently changed. "What do we tell our governments?" asked Commander Nalex as they prepared to return home. "We tell them the truth," Sang-woo replied, "that the age of military solutions has ended and the age of cooperation has begun." On New Terra Prime, Admiral Tae-min watched the first intergalactic ships disappear into folded space, carrying hopes and dreams beyond anything previous generations had imagined possible. 200 years ago, we left Earth to escape limitations, he said to his aide, Colonel So Young. Today, our children leave this galaxy to explore infinite possibilities. The holdout empires discovered that isolation meant exactly that. Their territories surrounded by invisible barriers that prevented expansion while allowing them to maintain their current worlds in whatever manner they chose. They cannot leave their systems, but they cannot be harmed within them. Director Woo Jin explained to President Na-Yun, "Perfect isolation for those who prefer the old ways." The new galactic order settled into patterns that would have seemed impossible just years earlier, with humanity serving as guides for species ready to evolve beyond traditional limitations. While respecting the choice of those who preferred familiar constraints, children from dozens of species played together on terraformed worlds that had been created using human technology.